KRFX HD2 Denver.
Coming up at 5 after the hour, listen for your chance to win $1,000 on KHOW Denver.
ABC News, I'm Inez de la Cuetera. The Republican Party uniting behind Donald Trump at its national convention.
President Trump built the most inclusive economy ever. 7 million jobs created pre-COVID-19, and 2/3 of them went to women, African Americans, and Hispanics.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate. Also featured on the first night, Nikki Haley, the ambassador to the UN under President Trump.
He knows that political correctness and cancel culture are dangerous and just plain wrong.
In Kenosha, Wisconsin overnight, more protests following the videotaped shooting of an unarmed black man by police as demonstrators hurled objects and police dressed in riot gear. The latest tropical storm Laura is now forecast to make landfall tomorrow as a strong Category 3 hurricane. This is ABC News. Jerry Falwell Jr. has now officially resigned from Liberty University, where he had been president. Falwell fighting scandals after a picture went public showing him with a woman with his pants unbuttoned. Then a Reuters report says Falwell and his wife had been engaged in a sexual relationship with another man for several years. In the midst of the Republican National Convention, the president's former fixer, himself convicted of campaign fraud and lying to Congress, is again going after President Trump.
The president's former attorney talking directly to the camera.
I'm here to tell you he can't be trusted.
Michael Cohen finishing his prison term for concealing hush money payments to an adult film actress who claimed an affair with the president. Democratic super PAC American Bridge paying for the ad.
Virtually everyone who worked for his campaign has been convicted of a crime or is under indictment, myself included.
The president has previously called Cohen a liar. Andy Field, ABC News.
Inez de la Cuetera, ABC News.
Right now, Allstate has almost as many ways to save as there are types of music. Save for being a new customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit allstate.com or contact your local agent to get a quote. Find out how much you can save today. Allstate. Now that should be music to your ears.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Smoothbrook, Illinois.
Modern modernization today has the products you need to modernize your workplace, like the Office DJ.
Let his fatigue-shattering beats fill every corner of your office with productive vibes.
At CDW, we get an Office DJ won't modernize productivity. You need secure, manageable, and reliable Dell Latitude laptops built to help your workforce stay productive from anywhere. Dell and IT Orchestration by CDW. People who get it. Find out more at cdw.com/Dell Client.
KHOW News Time, 6:03.
Governor Polis says the upcoming Labor Day holiday calls for COVID caution in Colorado.
I just want to encourage everybody to be cautious, particularly with Labor Day weekend coming up. We do not want a setback for our state, especially with kids going back to school, with businesses reopening. A setback from Labor Day would really be devastating for us.
The governor says Colorado is doing better than many other states in its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. He made his comments at a town hall hosted by Democratic Congressman Joe Neguse. Colorado Republican Congressman Ken Buck has pledged Colorado's 37 Republican delegates to the Trump-Pence campaign as part of the roll call in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Republican National Convention. The state Republican chair also used his time on the convention's first day to talk about the president's leadership during the pandemic. Sports, Rockies broke a 7-game losing streak last night with a 3-2 win over the Diamondbacks. Avalanche lost to Dallas 5-2. They trail the Stars in that playoff series 2-0. That's the latest. I'm Pat Woodard.
Now, Impact Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Making your way around town this morning, I-25 is smooth through the city with no delays between Castle Rock and Thornton. Eastbound and westbound I-70 clear between Arvada and Aurora. Pena in great shape. I-225 no problems in towards the Tech Center. City streets nice and quiet. If you do see a stall or accident, you can call our tip line, pound 250 Denver traffic. Today we will see isolated showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. Sunny and hot. High of 97. Chance of rain overnight as well, with partly cloudy skies and a low around 65. Currently 72. With your impact traffic and weather, I'm Jen So, 630 KHOW.
Staples helps your business with everything from office essentials to health essentials, all at amazing prices. Staples has a wide selection of chairs for your home or office, and this week select chairs are up to 40% off. It's Staples Chair Event, in-store only. Offer ends 8/29 while supplies last. Staples.
You know, as a guy who talks, well, not every day, but most days, right, for a living, and you start getting into some of the stuff we have going on around Colorado now with the air quality, which we'll probably talk about a little more during the show, you really have to take care of your voice. It's not just me. Anybody, right? Anybody. You're in a place that's dry. Now you get this smoke in the air. You really, really have to take care of it. And one of the things that I learned from Dr. David Opperman after he did a laser surgical procedure on my vocal cords were, you know, just some of the things to do to take care of your own voice. He talked about some of them on the show yesterday. I have a humidifier going next to me right now because it is all about keeping your voice in good condition for the long run. So hopefully you don't ever need surgery, or if you needed it once like I do, you never need it again. This is one of the things I love about working with Dr. Opperman. It's all about ongoing care of your voice to make sure, well, you know what your voice is supposed to do. I don't need to tell you. I want you to learn more at coloradovoiceclinic.com.
Weekdays 2 to 4. It's Michael Brown.
If you don't think that Joe Biden is just either office rocker or a real true progressive, he quotes Mao Zedong. Again, not the first time. Let's talk about it at 2.
It's your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword check to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's check to 200-200.
Are you ready?
Yeah! This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
He's a great guy. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. I'm Ross. Back in the home studio today. I think DJ Shannon has us up on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com.
We started it like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, all right. So you've all been spying on me for several minutes without my knowledge. So anyway, you go to youtube.com, type in Ross Kaminsky. You can wave hi to me and check out the home studio that I've got going on. Not much different from the last time that you looked at it, I think. But, you know, little stuff getting done all the time. We got a lot to do today, not surprisingly, with yesterday being the first day of the Republican National Convention. I have a good bit of audio for you from that. I will tell you that I thought that the first day of the RNC was not only better than the first day of the DNC, I thought it was better than any day of the DNC. And yes, I'm a little biased. I lean Republican a bit, but I'm not a registered Republican. And, you know, try to look at these things through as honest a lens as possible. And it was just better. You know, it was a funny thing before I get into some of the details of it. There were a couple points, especially early in the main broadcast part of the evening, which was 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Colorado time, where Fox News had, I guess, Sean Hannity on and talking to people rather than showing the convention, and I wanted to see the convention, not Sean. So I switched over to CNN for a little while, and then I checked Fox again, and then believe it or not, I switched to MSNBC for a little while. That was painful to have to take in literally 1 minute of Rachel Maddow's insane commentary, but I did it. And then I eventually ended up back at Fox. But it was kind of funny because as I was listening to the various speeches, there were a wide range of topics, and I'll share some of them with you over the course of the show. We had a lot to talk about today. It's not just going to be about last night, but I'm going to spend a little time each hour talking about what happened last night. And one of the first things that I thought to myself pretty early in the evening was how much more focus there was on policy than there was during the Democratic convention. The Democratic convention was all basically orange man bad, and unemployment is high right now because of Donald Trump, which I think is a really, really weak argument, right? Just putting myself in the position of a Democratic strategist wanting to go after your opponent, in this case, President Donald Trump, I could think of a lot better arguments to make than unemployment is high right now and it's Trump's fault. I mean, when an election is all about getting undecided voters and middle-of-the-road voters and moderates and suburbanites to go one way or the other, those voters whose votes could go one way or the other, you'd think the best thing to do would be to make an argument that normal people would believe. It was kind of weird in the Democratic convention how much time they spent essentially blaming Trump for current unemployment, which is on its way down anyway, when everybody knows it was the virus. And I think far more people, except for the hardcore base of the Democratic Party, I think far more people blame China for unemployment than blame Trump, which is right. I mean, it's much more China's fault than Trump's. And by the way, for all those people who say Trump should have done more, okay, maybe a little more, but what more could he have done? And what I mean is, yeah, I would have liked him to talk more aggressively about it in the couple months after he did the China thing, and to say, be careful, take it seriously, do some social distancing, that sort of thing. But when it comes to actual things to do, the federal government has almost no authority to do anything that involves shutting the economy or any of the kind of things that mostly I oppose anyway. So let's keep that in mind. Anyway, back to last night. So I'm watching this, and I hear Republican after Republican talk about a very wide range of issues. Very wide range of issues. Everything from racial and criminal justice issues to right to try. That woman gave a pretty strong speech about right to try. Criminal justice reform, which is actually something that the Trump administration has spent more money on Facebook advertising on that issue, criminal justice reform, than on any other issue, which might surprise you. They talked about taxes. They talked about regulation. They talked about what things will change if Biden becomes president. And I thought to myself, yeah, of course some of this is about the president and a little hint of that cult of personality that's going on right now, but it was much more substantive than the Democrats' convention was. And then during some short break in the proceedings where the Republican convention was running something kind of like an advertisement, something not very important, they cut to a panel of a few people at CNN, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and Wolf Blitzer, and there was one other. And Jake Tapper started talking about how it was sort of like policy free, what he had been watching so far. And I'm thinking, gosh, dude, as far as the mainstream media goes, Jake Tapper used to be one of the more honest people out there. Yeah, always a little bit left-leaning. That's fine. That's what you're going to get, okay? It's what you're going to get most of the time in the mainstream media. But I don't know whether it's just being around that true kind of swamp, or whether it's his own disdain for Trump, or whether it's just working around people who hate Trump. Whatever it is, you hear these commentators talk about something that you just saw, right? That you just saw literally 1 minute earlier. And you think they were watching something different. But of course, you weren't, and you know what you saw, and you know what you heard, and you know that they're lying. And that's, I don't know, it pissed me off, I have to say. And not that I have any trust or faith in CNN. By the way, the worst at CNN, not the worst, but one of the worst, is Brian Stelter, this short, fat, bald dude who lies all the time and yet has his own show on the weekends about the media, where he's supposed to be some kind of media watchdog and honest broker of all of this stuff. The dude cannot hold a candle. He is not fit to shine the shoes of Howie Kurtz over at Fox News, who is absolutely even-handed in his praise and criticism of folks everywhere in the media, including at Fox. Brian Stelter has never said a bad thing about anyone at CNN, no matter how much they lied, and Brian Stelter lies a lot too. Well, he's got a new book out that is basically a criticism partly of Trump and substantially, as far as I can tell from reading about the book, I haven't read the book and I don't frankly intend to, but a criticism of Fox News. And they just announced today that it's sold out so fast they're going to have to print more right away, which is, of course, things that have been happening with a lot of books about Trump and about the world around Trump and all that. But it's just frustrating to me that a guy who everybody who consumes any media at all should know is not just a liar and an apologist for the liars that he works with, but massively self-interested, right? It would be as if Joe Biden wrote a book about Donald Trump or Donald Trump wrote a book about Joe Biden. Like, oh, okay, you would maybe read it, but at least you would know in your head that the person who's writing it has an agenda that goes far beyond honesty. And that's certainly the case with Brian Stelter from CNN and his book, largely about or substantially about a lot of the Fox News personalities who are just killing CNN. So he's going to try to wreck them in a book. All right. I want to go to some sound from last night. I watched pretty much the whole thing, and there were lots of opportunities for sound clips, but I had to be, a little bit discerning, and I ended up picking up 9 sound clips. Some were, longer, some were shorter, and hopefully we will get through them over the course of the show. What I wanted to, and none of them is a whole speech from any of the folks. One of them is sort of close. But what I wanted to start with was one of the early speakers in the evening, or at least in the main prime time part of the evening, and that is a former NFL star Herschel Walker. And Herschel Walker gave, I thought, a really interesting talk, quite compelling, and it was a very different kind of perspective, right? A black dude who grew up in the South, who's been a friend of President Trump's for a long time. And when you're strategizing these things, when you're the person or the team putting together this convention, you're thinking to yourself, okay, who are our key target audiences, and what are the key messages we need to get across? And then, if you're going to break down what are the key messages we need to get across, you might ask yourself, what are the key defensive messages we need to get across, right? How are people attacking our guy, and how can we defend against that and immunize him against that? And then separately, what are the key offensive messages that we can offer to go after the other guy? Now, Herschel Walker did a little of both, but I would say the main angle for Herschel Walker was on the defensive side, and the particular issue that they were going at, and remember, a key goal here, so two goals, right? What are you saying, which includes why you're saying it, and then the other side is, who are you saying it to? So one of the key goals with Herschel Walker is to address this question that is raised, or this charge that is often leveled against President Trump, that President Trump is a racist. I've said forever that when it comes to questions of race and just interactions with society, President Trump, to me, is like sort of like an Archie Bunker type of figure. Not quite as far as Archie Bunker, but just a 70-something-year-old dude from Queens who is an equal opportunity insulter of everybody, which doesn't mean doing it with hate in his heart. He's just a tough dude from Queens. I don't believe Trump is a racist. I wish he'd go a little further in pushing back against some people who are racist. I don't think Trump is a racist. The issue of Trump not being a racist, the issue of Trump being accused of being a racist is an important one for two particular groups. Blacks, and I guess secondarily other minority groups, but really black voters, what we're aiming at here. And then woke young voters who, and I've talked about this since way before Trump, young voters, even if they lean conservative on some economic policies, for example, will not generally vote for someone whom they believe to be a bigot, even if they like their policies. And yeah, this is not about Trump. I said this before. I said this during Obama's presidency. I said this during George Bush's presidency, in my blogs before I was on the radio. This is just a true thing. Young people will not vote for someone they believe to be a bigot. So pushing back against this argument is very important when you're targeting those groups, younger voters and especially blacks. Here's some of what Herschel Walker had to say.
It hurt my soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist. People who think that don't know what they're talking about. Growing up in the Deep South, I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump. Just because someone loves and respects the flag, our national anthem, and our country, doesn't mean they don't care about social justice. I care about all those things. So does Donald Trump. He shows how much he cares about social justice in the black community through his actions. And his action speaks louder than stickers or slogans on a jersey. He keeps right on fighting to improve the lives of black Americans and all Americans. He works night and day. He never stops. He leaves nothing on the field. Some people don't like his style, the way he knocks down obstacles that get in the way of his goals. People on the opposing team didn't like when I ran over them either. But that's how you get the job done. I pray every night that God gives him more time. Give him 4 more years. He has accomplished so much almost all by himself on a constant attack. But there's still more work to be done. If you love America and want to make it better, Donald Trump is your president. He's my president, and I'm blessed to call him friend.
I thought that was really strong, and it's obvious who it's aimed at, and I thought it was pretty effective. I don't know how many African Americans were watching, but you know, that's what social media does. And if enough people in any given community, black community, white community, you know, millennial hipster community, like a particular video, it'll make its way around and people will hear that message. But I thought it was a really strong message, great way to start the night. And frankly, not exactly the voice that you expect to hear at a Republican convention, which I think is part of the reason that they but he was very, very early in the evening. And in fact, I don't remember, I think maybe it was the young woman talking about right to try who spoke right after Herschel Walker. And then right after Herschel Walker, a gentleman who will have some sound from, I'm not going to do it in the next segment, maybe the segment after that, but also an African-American man, an African-American lifelong Democrat state rep from the South who's voting for Donald Trump. Also very interesting. So they're really on that message. And keep in mind when you hear this stuff, if you believe that the election is going to be close, and if you're on the Republican side, you have to believe that because there's no way it's going to be a pro-Trump landslide, then you really got to work on picking off every individual vote you can and that includes trying to win more of the black vote. They were clearly trying to do it yesterday. More right after this. Hey, I got to tell you about Quip toothbrushes. Now, when I was first